On today's show, the Los Angeles Lakers were able to retain key players like Austin Reaves, Rui Hachimure, and D'Angelo Russell, while also adding some depth in guys like Gabe Vincent and Taurean Prince, among others. But are these moves enough for them to catch up to the reigning champion Denver Nuggets? What other moves might be on the horizon for this Lakers team? It's all coming up right here at Locked On NBA.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up and welcome to another edition of Locked On NBA, the biggest stories with the local experts. I'm your host, Jaxson Gatlin, also host of Locked On Rockets right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Now, today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. So what is Prize Picks? It's daily fantasy sports, but how does it work? Basically, you pick 2 to 6 players and they score more or less than their Prize Picks projection. You can win up to 25 times back on your money on any entry that you submit. There's no competing against other people. It's just you versus the projections available. And Prize Picks offers projections on any sport that you watch. That's NBA, NFL, MLB, NHL, PGA. They've got you covered for all the action over at Prize Picks. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's that simple. They're safe. They offer fast withdrawals. Currently operational in over 30 states and Canada. So download the PrizePicks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code LOCKEDON. That means if you deposit $100, PrizePicks will give you $100. If you deposit $50, PrizePicks will give you $50. So don't forget to enter promo code LOCKEDON at sign up for an instant deposit match up to $100. Joining us now is the host of Locked On Lakers, Andy Kamenetzky, who you can track down wherever you listen to your podcasts, and on YouTube, just search Locked On Lakers. And Andy, the Lakers, one of the more, active teams, at least at the start, at the offset of free agency. Let's start with the names that they retained. They were able to bring back Austin Reaves, D'Angelo Russell, and Rui Hachimure. I want to start with Austin Reaves because I think it was a bit surprising, maybe? Are you shocked at all that we didn't see any other team make a play for Austin Reaves? Was it just so much of a foregone conclusion that the Lakers were going to max any and all offers for Reaves that we didn't even see a single team try to sign Reaves to an offer sheet at some point?
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised, maybe not shocked, just because the Lakers messaged the hell out of this, and I don't think they were bluffing. I think if someone had gone to them with the absolute max offer for Austin Reaves, I absolutely think they would have matched it, both because they need him as a player and the optics of letting him go over money after losing Alex Caruso over money would have just been terrible, particularly for a team that just made the Western Conference Finals. That said, I'm surprised a team didn't try it, if for no other reason than even if you don't get the player you want, you mess with the Lakers' future books, because make no mistake about this, the Lakers saved potentially $40 to $50 million in terms of the contract that they ultimately gave Austin Reaves. And, Reaves can't be upset at the Lakers. There was a max they could proactively offer, but this was a massive, massive break for their future cap sheets.
It kind of feels like this summer, this offseason, this free agency period, we haven't seen, historically, I guess you usually get at least 1 or 2 of those teams that just have a ton of cap space. They're maybe a little rudderless. They don't have a direction. They're like, this guy's a RFA. Let's just throw the bag at him and see what happens. And those are always the teams where you look over your shoulder and like, man, we got to watch out for XYZ team because we've got an RFA and we might wind up paying through the nose to keep them just because this one random middling team decides to throw the bag. And it feels like that didn't happen this offseason at all. It didn't happen with Cam Johnson, didn't happen with Austin Reaves, TBD on a few other RFAs that are out there, but we haven't really seen that happen. I think that's because of some of the, tentativeness with the new CBA and implications, the tax-paying teams, the second aprons, all of that stuff that it has teams maybe thinking a bit more tactically about how to spend their money.
Yeah, RIP the Wild Wild West. What a time to be alive that used to be.
Now, the other 2 guys that the Lakers managed to retain, D'Angelo Russell, Rui Hachimure. Obviously, Rui Hachimure came on really strong for the Lakers. Makes sense that they wanted to bring him back. D'Angelo Russell, I guess I was a little bit more... how are we feeling about the return of D'Lo at this point? Because he felt like a guy that was, hit or miss at times in a Lakers jersey.
I actually feel really good about it. He was terrible in the Western Conference Finals against Denver, and there's no way around it. At the same time, in the first two rounds, I actually thought he was on balance good with a couple great games. And during the regular season, he missed some games because of injury, but for the most part, when the Lakers looked their best, it's because D'Angelo Russell was playing well. And more importantly, because of the Lakers' cap situation, if D'Lo had walked for nothing, they would have had no avenue for replacing him. And they simply could not afford to let him go, save some insane offer coming from another team, which I don't think was going to happen because D'Lo's always been a pretty polarizing player. But he's a good player. You know, he may not be a great player, but he's good. And he also provides some of the things that, at least offensively, this team really needs. They desperately need his outside shooting. Like, other than, unless you really believe in what Austin Reaves did last year, D'Angelo Russell is by far the best three-point shooter on this team. And I don't really think it's that close. Certainly in terms of over the course of a career, he's the most established. They need his creation. They need his scoring. He can create his own shot. And the other flaws in his game, mainly defensively, but I think, you know, you could say intensity, you could say, you know, certain facets, I think, of just sort of composure. You know, you work around them. And if, say, they end up in the Western Conference Finals against Denver again, and there are issues with him out on the floor, worry about that when the time comes. In the meantime, though, you got to win some regular season games and you got to get yourself to the Western Conference Finals. D'Lo was important last year for the Lakers getting where they did. And again, they'd have had no avenue for replacing that talent. They're not talented enough to let him just walk out the door. And the price was reasonable.
Those are good points to be made, for sure. It wasn't like an unreasonable ask to get him to stay for what they got him for. Some of the other names, though, that the Lakers did add, some of the new fresh faces, Taurean Prince, Gabe Vincent, Jaxson Hayes, and Cam Reddish rounding out the rest of the Lakers roster. I want to start with Gabe Vincent because I feel like he's kind of maybe the marquee acquisition, if you will, fresh off his run with the Heat. Does it feel like a significant upgrade, a wash, letting Dennis Schroeder walk and bringing in Gabe Vincent, kind of that extra guard, the one you're going to bring off the bench, might situationally start a little bit? How do we feel about that kind of, you know, one piece in, one piece out?
Well, I think it's a good signing. First of all, they'd have had no avenue for retaining Schroeder. What Toronto paid Dennis Schroeder was above the non-taxpayer mid-level. You know, it's about $600,000 a year more than the Lakers could have paid Schroeder. So in that sense, it really wasn't an either or. It was we can't keep Schroeder. I think Vincent is comparable to Schroeder, particularly if you think that his playoff showing, which he was quite good, is maybe the mark of something really clicking for him and that he's a player ascending. You know, defensively, he's a lot like Schroeder. He's a point of attack guy. He really gets at it. He's got that proverbial dog in him. Offensively, you know, that outside shot really came alive during the playoffs, but more so than it's been throughout the course of Gabriel's career. I think Schroeder's a more dynamic scorer than Vincent is, but on balance, I think he's a quality sub for Dennis Schroeder. But to reflect the earlier point I was making, if Gabe Vincent had been the replacement for D'Angelo Russell, that on top of Schroeder leaving, then you're talking about an actual downgrade. But Gabe Vincent in this role, I think it's fine. I think it's actually a pretty good signing. Miami, I know, had wanted to keep him.
And I mean, the other guys that they wound up bringing in as well, it feels like the Lakers did their best to kind of flesh this roster out a little bit, get, you know, some depth on the team, have a roster that they can go conceivably, you know, hopefully 10-ish deep, give or take. But do these moves inspire a ton of confidence moving forward with where the Lakers are at? LeBron James, another year older. Anthony Davis, another year older. Was this enough to feel like you're going into the next season with a contender, or do we need to see another move or two made further down the line, be it a couple of minimum guys, or is there maybe a major move that might be coming down the pipeline for this Lakers team to feel really good about their chances to run it back next year?
Well, I mean, they're definitely going to look to, I think, add one more center, a veterans minimum guy out there, whether it's bringing back Mo Bamba, much less expensive contract than before, maybe Tristan Thompson again, a Bismack Biyombo, somebody like the options out there of veteran minimum are not great. I do like, by the way, we had mentioned him, Taurean Prince. I thought was a really good pickup for the biannual exception in a lot of ways. As a 3-and-D, 3-4 style wing, he's both a replacement for Malik Beasley and Troy Brown, and I think he's better than either one of them. As far as
do you think Taurean Prince has a chance to start?
I think he could, actually. I think there's a possibility he could start if they want to play. If they decided to play Rui Hachimure big minutes off the bench because they just wanted to balance out some of the scoring and make him the first player off the bench, and Taurean Prince sort of a nominal starter, like a 22-minute a night starter, 20-minute a night starter, but he provides some spacing. I don't think it's out of the question. That you could, maybe the same thing could happen with Jared Vanderbilt as the starting 3 and you play Rui off the bench. But I think it's possible Prince could start. I don't think it's out of the question, just because, this, a lot of times the starting lineup is more about floor combinations than your 5 best players. But as far as how much better they got or closing the gap between them and Denver, I think the real answer is how much better could they have gotten? They didn't have a lot of avenues to actually make drastic improvements. I think the most important thing for them this offseason was don't get worse. I think they got incrementally better because I think
maybe they closed the gap just because Denver lost some pieces at this point.
Yeah. Look, what you want to be, if nothing else, I think Denver's a really good team. I was on the Denver train all of last season, and I just thought they looked really good all year. But they may not. I don't think they are as good yet as Denver. I need to see it. If nothing else, I need to see LeBron and AD stay healthy all year. But what you want to be is, if nothing else, in a position to capitalize if something goes wrong with Denver, if the pieces in Phoenix don't click, if Memphis can't get back on board once Ja returns, like all those different scenarios. You want to make sure you're in the mix and have that possibility. At the very minimum, I think the Lakers kept themselves in that mix. I think they had a really good offseason. I really do.
Did the Lakers add enough this offseason? Are they still in the mix or potentially able to overtake some of the other contenders in the Western Conference? What other moves will they make? Of course, you'll have us covered for all of that and more over at Locked On Lakers. Andy, I appreciate you stopping by Locked On NBA with me.
Anytime, man.